This is the Lockpicker 1969, and welcome to my channel, and welcome to the next episode of Interview with the Lockpicker. Today's guest.
Hey, hold on a minute, mister. It's about time for you to answer some questions.
Okay.
I think we need to interview you today.
All right.
So I want to ask you a few questions. Where are you from?
Born and bred in Michigan. I've lived here in Michigan all my life.
Okay, so you're right along pretty much the same time zone as me, I believe.
Yep.
We're pretty close. Yeah, we're in the same time zone. Well, we all were wondering. I mean, we've been listening to your interview series for a while, and a lot of us have questions of our own. So I think I'm going to ask you a few more. How and when did you get into locksport?
I got into locksport right after the lockdown started with the pandemic. So, I had a lot of other interests and hobbies before that I kind of had to put to the wayside. And when the pandemic,
Right, because it was more public.
yeah. So I needed, I'm an engineer and architect for a living. So working with my hands and figuring things out is something that I enjoy doing. So I started looking at lists online for ideas for hobbies. And
okay.
I think I got through 6 or 7 lists of like 100 ideas, didn't like any of them. And then I came across lockpicking and I'm like, I wonder what that would be like.
Can I interrupt and ask you, where did lockpicking rank on the list? Like, because I don't,
I don't recall.
When you were looking kind of.
It was more of a list of ideas. I don't know if they were numbered or not, but it was way down there. It wasn't at the top of the list.
Wow.
But
I don't understand why people don't like to pick locks.
But I looked at it as, because the way it was described as solving puzzles and figuring out these little complex in some respects machines, which is, they have moving parts. And I said, okay, well, let's give that a go. I did order my first pick set as a Chinesium set from Amazon with the clear locks and all that. Yeah. And that lasted me about a week. Then I purchased 2 sets from Southord. One was an MPXS, I think it was the 14 maybe, which just had standard picks and wrenches and so forth. And I purchased the C 2010, which is more for like European style cylinders, because I've been reading and like, okay, well, I'm probably going to want this, so why not just go ahead and bite the bullet and get it now, which I did. And I quickly found out that wasn't really going to work for me very well. The handles were so small, and I have very large hands, and physical challenges with my hands. So I
was gonna say.
I tried LLT. That was a little too big, and the handles are too thick. And then I wound up on Peterson for a long time. So and it wasn't until I got my hands on some Jimmy Longs and I was like, oh yeah, this is the shit. So
100% agree.
And I've tried almost most commercially available lockpick sets out there, just trying to explore what works well for me. And I think the most current thing that I really love the most so far is Moki's picks. That's not saying anything bad about Jimmy Longs, and it's not saying anything bad about any other ones, but just the feel of those picks, the length of the handles works perfectly for me. So loving them. So, but that's how I kind of got into it, and that's where that went.
Right. Now, how do you see the community, like the locksport community, when you decided to join and things like what got you into the actual community part of it? And like, how do you see it,
So I was really gun shy about becoming a part of any community online. back in 2013, 2012, I got involved in the car racing and car show scene and online community, and it
Mm.
was very toxic. A lot of
I
trolls.
can't imagine.
Yeah, well, that, and then I got involved in shooting sports to do competitive shooting. So I got a lot
Nice.
involved in a lot of different gun groups and all that sort of thing. And they too were very toxic,
Oh man.
bunch of prima donnas and know-it-alls, and I just
Oh,
I participated in those environments just so I could find out where events were being held. But other than that, I really wanted to have nothing to do with talking to anybody.
right, right.
So it was sometime around 2018 when I was due to a car accident and so forth and damage to my hand. I had to give up competitive shooting and I had to give up the whole car thing. Well,
Oh man.
the whole car thing and the accident really took the desire to have the need for speed right out of me. I'll tell you
Yeah, yeah.
that did it. So, but I got involved in online gaming for about 4 years with my wife. And I was involved in the online community with that too, and it was very toxic. Also, actually, even worse.
Oh wow.
So when I got to lockpicking, I'm like going, God, do I really want to get involved in the community? You know, it's just a
Right.
bunch of people just being really not cool to one another. And I got on Facebook, and that's where I met you.
Yeah.
And I got on Facebook. I was there. I didn't get on Facebook. I'd been picking, I think, for 6 to 9 months before I really started to say, you know what, I need help. I need to be able to ask questions.
Right.
That's what got me to get onto Facebook. And then I was on there for a little while, and then someone mentioned the LPU belt ranking system, and I'm like, oh, I want to know more about that.
Yeah,
And
of
that got me
course.
to Reddit. I'd never used Reddit before in my life. So I got over on Reddit. Started getting involved in the belt system and started earning belts. And then someone mentioned Discord, and I'm like, oh, hell, I'll get over on Discord. I used to run Discord servers. I'm comfortable there.
Right,
So
right.
what I found in all of those environments, though, all three of them, was a community and people that were all helpful, encouraging, willing to go out of their way to just help one another and push everybody else along and keep everybody going, and just a wealth of information. And I was like, this is so different. I'm like, this is
Yeah.
cool. I like this. So
Hmm.
I got more involved, and I reached out to you on Facebook because you were posting, your stuff on there, and both my wife and I both loved your stuff. And that's when I reached out and I
Thank
said,
you.
you really need to, get a YouTube channel going. And you and I talked about that, and I don't think you were convinced
Yeah.
right away, but eventually,
No.
eventually you did get your channel going, and I was very happy to see that. And yeah, then I think it was like a week and a half after you had gotten your channel up, and you're like approaching 100 subscribers, and here I was sitting with 17. And I'm like, I got all mine just from doing the belt videos for the LPU thing. And I'm like,
Right.
I need to get off my ass. I said, I need to start practicing what I preach here. And I'm like, what do I want to do with my channel? And I didn't really want to do, I mean, nothing wrong with channels that do pick and gut and all that stuff. I mean, they're the bread and butter of the locksport community as far as, being helpful.
Yeah.
But I wanted to do something different, and I wanted to help or give back to the community in a different way. And what I saw, the demographics of people looking at and watching these videos, the 35 to 55-year-old demographic, it was the largest demographic for people looking at lockpicking videos. And I'm like, what do I have
Wow.
in common with them? And the arthritis in the hands and the hand issues
Hmm.
and all of that really just came to the
Yeah.
forefront. And I'm like, okay, so I can help that way by sharing how I've overcome some things and all of that. But there's a lot of new pickers, and I'm like, they have to make difficult choices between buying tools and buying locks, and a lot of them
Right.
can't really get locks beyond what they get from the local hardware store, Master Locks or Brinks or whatever. So I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
how can I help give these newer pickers some more choices, more ways to advance their skills? And I found a way to buy a bunch of Lotto locks and ABIS 7240s and a bunch of other locks for relatively cheap and buying them in bulk. And that drove the cost down to allow me to do weekly giveaways for a while. And that's kind of where things
Yeah.
launched. And I've always been adding more and more to that to give more back to the community and draw more attention to the community and help bring out and identify members of our community. So the whole interview thing really started out as just an idea that I tossed around with you, and
Yeah.
you like the idea, and I spent probably another month and a half to 2 months just working out the logistics of how I was going to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Because
Yeah, I remember you changed a lot of things since you started doing it
oh
too.
yeah,
Like you've
yeah,
upgraded a lot of things, and you've put a lot into this, for sure.
it's been a learning process. I learned a lot because to recall back when I was going to do the interview series, there was talk with you and I about how we were going to handle, putting these videos out and all of that. And you were very gracious and said to me, "Hey, you put them out. I'll be happy to be your first guest," which you were. And I had a very canned set of questions, and that's kind of how the interview came off to a certain extent, was canned, and I didn't want that. That wasn't what I had envisioned. What I
Yeah.
envisioned was a very casual conversation. So like I tell others when I'm doing pre-interviews, the feel I was going for is if you were to walk into a bar and sit down at a table near the bar and there's two guys or whatever, two people sitting at the bar just chatting away, and you're within earshot, you're listening in on a conversation between two people. And that's the feel I want the audience to
Right.
have, that they're sitting in on that. So
That's nice. I like that.
that's what I went for.
I think you've got that now, I
Yeah.
think you've got that now for sure. I mean, it's come a long way, and you've done, how many interviews have you done now so far?
Well, this will be episode 50. I think I've got another 20 episodes or people lined up to do episodes beyond this. So
Wow.
there'll be at
Wow.
least 20 more of those. And now the interview series for Challenge Lock Workshop, that
Yes,
involves.
tell us a little bit about that. You were doing an interview with a lockpicker, and now you're branching off to challenge lock interviews, correct? Is that
Yeah,
what the
well,
next section's going to be?
so when I had to do my blue belt challenge lock, I went off the deep end, as I do because I'm OCD and ADHD. But I went and purchased a whole bunch of different lots of cylinders from like eBay, different keyways, you name it, and got all the key blanks. All of that came in, and that was around the same time that the whole channel launch thing happened. So it got put on the back burner. And I do like making challenge locks. I've made a total of 9 of them so far, at different
Right.
levels. But you've picked what, 6? No, you've had 7 of them, I believe. So
Yeah, yeah, and
if you
I
count
think I picked 6, but the last one it beat me. It beat me.
well,
I had to sign up for a rematch because I couldn't get it. It was very tough. You did
yeah,
an amazing job.
thank you. I'm hoping with as colorful as Sadistic is, you sent it off to him. I'm looking
Yes.
forward to a very colorful video with him. If he, I'm hoping he enjoys a
I
lot.
think he'll get it. He's amazing at picking
Yeah.
challenge locks. So
I,
if anybody can do it, it's him, I think.
I want him to enjoy it. So
Right.
with that, I've always wanted to get back to working on challenge locks. It's something I've always wanted to get back to, because I really enjoy working in the shop and work with my hands. And So I thought, well, what's a good way to approach that, have the time to do that, and produce content that people will find interesting, I hope. So
Right.
I originally did set up the Challenge Lock Workshop series to be just me doing videos on how to make different pins and do core modifications, make keys, all that sort of stuff. And then I'm like, you know what? We've got some amazing challenge lock making talent out there. And we've got some amazing challenge lock pickers out there. Why don't I do some interviews with them? Because there's some great people out there, and my thing seemed to be at that point interviewing. So, okay. So, yeah, it's been well received
Kind of a
so far.
mashup.
Yep,
Nice.
yep.
Yeah.
So, I will probably want to do interviewing with the 3D, the locksport 3D printing series as well.
Okay.
I mean, that started out as me just wanting to share locksport related 3D printing stuff, but I haven't done an episode in a while there because my printer was down for a little bit, and I didn't
Oh,
have
okay.
the time to get back to fixing it. It's up and running again, but
Oh, nice.
I printed all my handles for the Moki picks using that printer,
Oh, wow.
and so I intend to want to bring on 3D printing and designing people. I want to interview both. That's the tricky part people don't get about 3D printing is you can buy a 3D printer, but
Mm-hmm.
you can print stuff all day long as you're printing something somebody else designed and saved the STL file for. But if you really want to make your own stuff, which is really what I wanted to do when I got the printer in the first place, if you really want to do that, you've got to learn CAD, and I am struggling with that. So I keep going to my
Oh, wow.
18-year-old kid saying, "Hey, learn CAD," so he can design stuff for me, and I can just print it then. So I said, "Learn a useful skill for your future career here." So yeah, so
Oh my goodness.
but so
Um,
the challenge lock stuff, I enjoy them a lot, and that's kind of where the whole series came from originally, and just adding interviewing to it just made sense. So
right. Yeah, I like that. I think that's, you know, I think that's a really nice thing that you do, interviewing everybody, letting everybody get their stories out, and just kind of getting everybody to know each other better. I think that's really nice.
oh,
I think that's a really nice thing to do.
I love it. I learn something from everybody I talk to. Something I learn from everybody. I would never have finally dove into making picks if it had not been for all the people that really that were part of the initial interviews with the with the Lockpicker series. There's
Right.
too many mentioned. There's so many of them. All of them just kept making me feel like, yeah, I've only been doing it for about a year or 2 years or whatever. And I'm like, well, shit. So I've been doing woodworking for years. I'm going to need to get myself in there and just do it. And I did. They pushed me.
Yeah, you made some nice picking time picks. That was some of your first stuff, wasn't it?
Yeah. Yep. Yep.
Yeah, I have mine. I still have mine. It's one of my favorites. So you
It
did a great job, even just starting out. So
it was
I mean,
fun.
you've done quite a few, pretty much like, uh, pretty much epic quests. Like you've done quite a few epic quests already. And epic quests are, the things
Yep.
that people do to earn their black belt. So, well, if you wanted to say are you going to go for your black belt? And if so, what of all that, because you've done so many things, what of all of that are you going to use? Or, you know, what else do you want to learn, if you want to learn something different?
Yeah. So my wife's joke with me is that my hobby is collecting hobbies. So
Yeah,
I have a
that's
lot of
true. It's fun.
interests, and I have kids, and I do a channel, and I'm doing these interviews for that channel and a lot of other stuff. I'm really trying to fit in the whole challenge luck thing as a part of that series so that I get some time to do, be creative and do some stuff I want to work on. I have put a lot of myself into the channel. to keep putting stuff out for people to enjoy. At least I hope they enjoy. Um, but as far as belts go, I met you around the time I was working on my Blue Belt Challenge locks, if I recall correctly. And it was shortly then afterwards that a few months later, that I finally got around to just getting my purple done. And after that,
Okay.
with everything I had going on, I just didn't feel like I had the time to really
Right.
dedicate to it. And it didn't, I'm not going to say it didn't matter, but it just wasn't a higher priority at the time compared to other stuff I was
Right.
trying to get done. I do want to eventually earn that, the black belt. I have several pegboards with locks, and I have one that's dedicated to just the to-do board, and half that board is filled with red, brown, and black belt level locks to get into.
Yikes.
So I just have to sit down. That's been the problem. I've had a few stumbling areas. Sliders are not friendly for me.
No, I don't like
D-
them either. You're not alone.
and I love Chris Capoon, but watching him so easily open these disc detainer locks, I'm like, ah.
Well, you have to remember, Chris said it took him, I think, a year until he actually opened a disc detainer lock. He practiced for a year. So he
Oh,
said it
okay.
was definitely not easy. It took him a whole entire year. He said that's longer than normal. He said that, to learn that, but it did take him
Okay.
an entire year. Yeah. So don't feel bad.
Yeah,
It's not but he does make them look easy. That's for
yeah, he
sure.
does. And I definitely want to get better tools. The best I have at the moment is the Sparrows one, which, you know, it's going to only get you so far. Need a better
Right.
tool to get into rear tensioning. So, but anyway.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, for sure.
but yeah, so eventually I want to get back to that and about the quests. Yeah, I think I have a few. I've been told I have a few that would already be met, like the community one with the interview series. And I'm assuming with the other interview series, hopefully that'll count for something somewhere along the line. We'll see what happens with that. But challenge locks, I would like to. I've I've got two bins that I showed on a video tour of the lab. Two bins full of cylinders. Probably, I'm going to guess there's around 200 cylinders to make locks out of.
Yeah.
So there's more challenge locks in my future. I just have to get to it. So
Yeah. Locksport has a lot of side projects, I guess you could call them, and
yep,
you definitely can go down a lot of paths and get kind of picking a favorite and sticking to that for a while,
yep,
and it
I,
is definitely a journey.
yep.
It's definitely a journey.
I intend to make an entire set of picks that, metal and all, make them, from scratch in different profiles. So I have a whole set done for that. I think there's a quest for that as well, if I'm not mistaken, anyway. But
Yeah. Yes.
and
I believe pick making. Yeah.
I want to learn decoding. I never was even interested in decoding if it hadn't been for Zman sending me a cutaway of a Masterlock 1670 dial, lock. I think they
Mm-hmm.
use them on like lockers and stuff. But if I'd never received that, I don't know if I would have ever been interested in it. But looking at how the dials moved inside and just watching them and turning it and learning how I was lining up the discs, that really piqued my interest. And I have purchased a number of just regular combination locks to mess around with at some point. So I do want to learn decoding. I did try doing some key impressioning, but I have all the tools to do it. I just need to sit down and have the time to do it. So,
Right. Yeah.
but
Yeah. It's kind of have to pick a favorite and do that for a while. There's so many things to do, but so little time.
yeah. So that's
Oh,
kind of that. That's the gist of that.
for your log sport. Yeah. Yeah. What other hobbies do you like? do anymore besides locksport, or is that your main hobby for now?
Besides, so besides entertaining my wife, so she she does furniture refinishing, which involves
Okay.
woodworking. So I'm very much involved in working with her in the shop. I love working with my hands and doing stuff with wood and just learning. Every time you do something, you're learning something new about what you're working on. Um,
Right.
and I love that part of it. Let's see. See, I told you before I'd be saying a lot. See, that's what I'm thinking. And yeah, there's a stall. Uh, so
It's hard to not say it.
I still enjoy cars. I just don't enjoy them at the level I used to. But my kids right now are of the age where they're getting older. I'm trying to do what I can to spend a little more time influencing the decisions they make, about the interests that they try to develop. So I'm trying to do that with them, and I'm trying to share my interests with them as well. They have zero interest in lockpicking. I'll just tell you that right now. I actually picked and gutted a lock in front of both of them, and they just were not impressed. So anyway, but yeah, so yeah, the lockpicking, I don't even look at it as it's lock sport to me. There's so many
Definitely.
rabbit holes to go down, and I've gone and fallen into all of them. So I don't think I'll have a problem keeping busy for a very long time. But 3D printing has always been something I wanted to do, and I still do that. I enjoy, looking at it. I'm trying to learn CAD. So, you know, I have to learn a lot for what I do for a living and stay on top of that.
Right.
That's a constantly changing industry that you really have to have your skills up to par or you just can't keep up, kind of thing, because technology
Right.
changes so fast.
Yeah.
So I spend time with that. But yeah, I mean, we have a online gaming. I'll tell you, I'll never be going back to that again. That's a hobby that I've given up on, and I hope it never shows up at my door again because I'll probably slam the door in its face. But that it was such an expensive hobby. People say lock sport or lock picking is an expensive hobby. Yeah,
Yeah.
you haven't played the right online games then, because it's not even second to that. So
Well,
yeah, that's really tough. I was glad to get out of that. That was like a what do you call it? A bad habit, or
right.
I can't remember. I'm drawing a blank.
Well, at least you're that says a lot,
Addiction.
because Locksport, yes, yes,
Addiction.
Locksport can be expensive too. And
Yep.
if your gaming was more expensive than Locksport, that tells us everything we need to know, because
Well,
we've all fall down the Locksport buying rabbit hole there,
the
buying
problem,
locks left and right.
yeah, the problem is that most of these online games these days are moving to a profit model, which you can't blame them. They want to make money, but a lot of them are pay to play and pay to win. Then to be competitive, you have to spend an inordinate amount of money to keep up with everybody else. And that was one of my problems, is I was exceptionally competitive. I wanted to play at the top of my game, so I was willing to spend the money. And I happened to have my wife along for the trip. She only played it for 2.5 years, but between the two of us, and I'm ashamed to admit, but I'll admit it to hopefully save somebody else from the same hole. We probably spent in 4 years the equivalent that of we could have bought 2 new cars
Wow,
on that game. Yeah.
wow.
So lockpicking, yeah, nowhere near that. Nowhere near that. Yep.
That's actually yeah, that's surprising, because Locksport can be expensive, as you know. Now, when with your 3D printing, I just have to ask you, are you going to be doing things like selling things like community, like for the community, like if we need plug followers or things like that, or are you just basically keeping to very small and just kind of for your, just for personal use and things like that? 'Cause I
If
know a lot of people get their 3D printers and
Yep.
they sell items for the community and different things. And
So that's what's kind of interesting. I got into 3D printing originally, the thought, because I'm one of those people where I need to come up with duplicate reasons to purchase something. It can't be just a singular thing. When it comes to equipment, like
right,
power equipment, stuff for the shop, whatever. The printer, there was no debate about whether or not we should get a 3D printer or not. The debate was, where would we put it? I mean, I have my lab, which takes up a large amount of space, and then next door to it is the shop, and then what we call the sawdust room, which is where all the cutting and stuff is done, and sanding and everything
right,
else. So
okay,
we have a lot of space taken up in our basement where it's all about arts, crafts, and like woodworking and those sorts of functions. And
okay,
so my wife's office doubles as the Cricut room where we print vinyl or cut vinyl. And that's used for a number of different things. But then the 3D printer actually is now where a bookcase used to be. And I built a work table stand to put the 3D printer on to fit there and match the other table she had the Cricut on, which I also built.
oh, okay, oh
So
wow,
there are two work tables that have enough weight that anything on top of them will not vibrate and shake the table like a vinyl printer.
okay,
A vinyl printer has a cutting head that goes back and forth really rapidly, and if you didn't have a stable
right.
table, that table will be shaking everywhere. Same thing with a 3D printer.
It would find its way off into the floor, I bet,
So
eventually.
I'm always the kind of person that thinks, who's going to be the next person that invents the next widget? And I'm like, if I could learn CAD, I might be able to start like prototyping ideas. And, I've always told my wife, I said, if you're ever doing something in the kitchen, wherever, and you have a thought like, man, this would be so much easier if I had this, write
Right.
that down. Because that's going to be the next widget. Because if it doesn't exist already, then you should work on trying to design one and put it out there and see what people think. So that kind of led to the 3D printer can print all kinds of things that are already established out there in the community in the form of washers and handles. And so all kinds of different things that she could potentially use in furniture refinishing, like replacing the tracks for a drawer, for example.
Okay.
There's all kinds of things you can do with the 3D printer once you learn CAD. Though that's been the hang up for me.
Right.
But I have found a
Yeah.
lot out there that you can just download and print. And there's a ton of locksport
Okay.
stuff. We've got some amazing people in locksport that have designed all kinds of things for locksport. And they're just
Right.
out there to grab and take them. And then I find ways to modify them and resize them so that they're more applicable. So like, for example, the little pinning trays, you made the comment that you can't really do anything with dimple locks with those. So I
Right.
modified them to make the channels deeper and wider so they could fit the pins and the lids could go on them and you could store your pins for progressive pinning a dimple lock with it. I mean,
Nice.
it's all doable. So, yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, yeah, I think we covered a whole lot of stuff, but I hear that we're going to have a second interview with Knox Locks. He has some questions for you as well, and I
Yep.
think his are going to be pretty tough. I think he's got the
Yep.
tough questions. Um, I've only asked just very nice ones, but Knox is going to really get in your head there.
Yep. I hope so. I'm looking
He's
forward
gonna
to
get
that. Yeah.
you. Yeah, I think everybody should tune in for that one. When are you going to be putting out your Knox Locks interview? Do you guys have a set
We
date
don't
that we
have
can expect maybe
he was
to
having
hear
some
from you?
yeah he was having some internet issues and trying to get service established because
Mhm.
something happened with his family and he's had to transfer the
Oh
service.
no.
Um, so he's working on that. He thought he'd even have internet service by this Saturday, but I told him
Oh, okay.
not to worry about it. I said, don't beat yourself up. Take as much time as you need. You know, get all the other things that are more important taken care of right now for you. So um, we'll get it done, and it'll be a part two. It may not be the one right after this one. I don't know, but there'll definitely be a part two with him. You know, giving me some questions, but um,
Awesome. Yeah, I think he's got some tough ones for you. Knox
yeah.
is a good questioner. He's a
Oh
good
yeah.
questioner. I really find his questions very in depth and
Well,
they're
the
just very good questions all around.
the
So
funny
he
th-
will get to the bottom of everything.
the funny thing about that is he IM'd me on Discord and said, "Hey, I've got a bunch of questions I'd like to ask you. You know that I would love to do an interview." Blah, blah. And I said that you were doing the interview for this, and when we got to episode 50, and he said, "Okay." So he sent me a bunch of questions, and I was happy to answer them, and I'm thrilled to be able to take his questions that he posed to me, and we'll run through them because there were great questions. A
Oh,
a
absolutely.
lot of good stuff about the interview with the Lockpicker series, and some questions about my favorite episodes and difficulties I might have had along the way. Yeah, so that's coming. I know people want to know some of that stuff, so he was right on target with those. But um,
Yeah, he does a great job, that's for sure.
so you know, I guess. Do you have any other questions you want to pose?
I can't think of any at this time. Do you have anything else that you want to elaborate on or share with us? Because,
Yeah, just
it's
one
not like
thing.
we don't want to know. We all want to know stuff.
Yeah,
We're very nebby. That's why everybody loves the interviews.
you've spoken to my wife in the past, and I give her full credit for being a very supportive person of me in every venture I've ever tried, experienced, whatever. From car racing, she was right there to tell me, yeah, let's go get that racing engine built and put in there, and we'll do some rallies and everything. She was right there for all of that. She's right there encouraging me to go out and do competitive shooting every step along the way. And when it got to lockpicking, she didn't falter. She was just right there. She is my biggest fan, and she loves
That's
what I'm doing
awesome.
with the channel. She's the one that's waiting for me to get done with the recordings when I'm doing interviews, and when I'm doing the pre-interviews, which last even longer into the evening. But she's the one waiting,
Right.
and she's very patient. She's probably one of the most patient
That's
people I've ever
awesome.
known. So you know what? If you got a significant other who's supportive of your hobbies, man, do what you can to support them. So she wanted to do
Yeah.
woodworking. I didn't even hiccup. So,
Right.
yep, let's go get what you need.
Very
So,
cool.
yep.
That's very cool.
So, but
And you
that's
guys workshops are pretty much next door to each other, right?
the whole basement's just one big workshop. It's one topic to another. So, from the lock lab, which doubles as my office for work, to right
That's
across the
awesome.
hall is her office with the Cricut and the 3D printer. And then along the wall in our hallway is shelves just filled with every kind of varnish, stain, glue, whatever you would possibly need for woodworking. And then the other end
Wow.
is the actual shop, where we do work. And then the other room, the sawdust room, is where we do cutting and sanding and that sort of thing. So yeah, the whole basement is more or less been taken over. There's just one section that we use for storage, and we've even got tools in there too. So
But that's nice that you guys, can kind of work on your hobbies separately, but together still,
yep,
because you're kind of, have like all your equipment and everything in one little, one area. That's very nice. I
yeah,
like that.
because she tried lockpicking. she supports what I do, and she understands when you open something for the first time that you've been struggling with. She understands that rush, but at the same time, she got through picking master locks like Model 3s and all that sort of thing, and then she kind of went, I don't get it, but as long as you do, that's what matters. So okay. So
I'll say it again. I do not understand why people don't love to do picking. I don't get it.
I don't know either. I don't know. I guess as a kind of a sign off, and I ask everybody to do, their final statement or whatever, if they have any words they want to share. This is an amazing community. It's full of amazing people I've met so many people from so many different walks of life, from physicists to doctors to professors to machinists to people working on radio, towers and cutting trees, and line workers, and just so many different kinds of people we have in this community. It's just amazing the number of different walks of life everybody brings to the table in this. And just take a moment once in a while when you do have a chance to talk to somebody and just ask them about, hey, what do you do? Because everybody's got an interesting story.
I agree. And I think it's amazing that everybody in all these different walks of life can come together in our community and, just get along wonderfully. Just like, like you're talking to an old friend. And it's crazy because, sometimes you would never think if you would meet that person, like say you're a machinist and you meet the doctor, are you going to sit down and have all these things to talk about? But, with locksport, that's definitely, you can, you don't even think twice about any of that. It's crazy.
Yep. Agreed. I love this community. I'll continue to give back to it as long as I can. So
that's awesome. That's awesome. And I thank you for letting me interview you.
Oh no, that was fun.
We've all been kind of chatting behind the scenes because, we've all gotten our interviews from you. We all just really kind of wanted to know some things about you. So we all appreciate it.
It only made sense. You were the first interview. It made sense for you to do this 50th interview. And I'm going to be changing the format. The format will change a little bit as far as how it looks. So that's coming. So I guess
I can't wait to see what you've got in store. That's for sure.
Yep. I guess I'll do my classical close. If you are a subscriber,
yes, do it.
Thank you. If you are not yet a subscriber, please hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications and all, and hit like on the video. And thanks for listening.